Hey guys, and welcome back to the channel. My name is Brandon Sloan. I am the owner of Performance Transmissions in Greenville, South Carolina, and as well as the lead technician at Parks Buick GMC, located on the Motor Mile. In this video, we have an 8L90 transmission that is out of a 2015 GMC Yukon, and we will be going over the gear train setup and case assembly, along with clutch pack travel specifications. If you like this video, don't forget to subscribe and tap that bell notification. Let's not waste any more time, and let's get to it. So on an 8L90 transmission, the first clutch pack that is installed into the case is the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 reverse clutch. Now, as far as looking at if we need to make adjustments to the clutch pack travel on this unit, there are 3 brake clutches in that clutch pack. The specification for this is very wide. It is 37 thousandths to 70 thousandths of clutch pack travel. That's the clearance that you're going to be in that window. Now, this being a brake clutch, I do want to state that we probably want to try to get that clearance down to the bottom number kind of as much as we can. And the reason being is we've only got 3 frictions in there, and it's the only thing that holds a rotating assembly inside this unit, and it is on 1st through 5th and in reverse. So the first thing I'm going to do as the assembly on this is assemble the extension housing. Put it together and assemble it to the back of the case. It's the first thing we're going to do. This is a new gasket that I've installed to the back of the case that you do see here. So got that on. We're going to install a new output shaft seal, just like that. Make sure it's all the way down. Any raised spots. All right, flip it over. Put that guy away. We're going to put some glovies on. We're going to put some new O-ring seals and some trans gel so we don't cut any new O-rings. This is all that goes into the extension housing. We take and compress it here and put the new snap ring. So the new snap ring has a more flat edge versus the round edge. It's an updated design. It comes with a new overhaul kit from GM. So the O-ring kit that I do have for this one, part number 24279926. Just in case you're missing anything out of the overhaul kit, I do like to have that separate. Now, in the overhaul kit, we'll have this O-ring right here is actually going to be blue. So we're going to take and put that blue O-ring, if it was a blue O-ring, and put it right here. It's the second step down to the top of the tower of the extension housing. 2 to the side. Next, we have our inner O-ring for the fluid dam. Then we have our D-ring at the top of the fluid dam. Or that backwards. No, sorry. Do not make that mistake. Oh, it's already in there. What shall we ever do? We're going to be very, very careful with that guy. Do not want to cut him. I'm going to just with me, and you'll see. Dang. First error. Walk and talk. Just easy. So at the top of the fluid dam, you have an O-ring that you will place there, and a D-ring is the next one that comes in the kit that goes towards the bottom side of the fluid dam. If it was this way, this is the top, this is the bottom. If it's faced this way, this is the top, this is the bottom. Next D-ring, the top of the fluid dam. And the last O-ring, or D-ring, I should say, goes on the bottom of the piston. Grab some trans gel, I'm going to walk it around, and I'm going to put a little bit of hot transmission fluid on here as well. I know everybody's going to tell me to use STP. It's slicker. I've actually got something else I'm going to do. Something I have done before in the past to make this even slicker than STP. Nope, it's not that one. It's not that one. I must have moved it over here. Did I move it over here? Nope. HP CVT fluid. You will slide and bust your tail with this stuff if it's on the floor. Accidentally found that out the hard way. It does not break down to worry about having that much of this type of fluid that's in here. It's just enough for assembly. It's not going to cause any issues. Line up the alignment piece in the piston to the extension housing here. Line it up. Press it down. Install the spring It doesn't matter which way this goes, up or down. We're going to do the same thing here. What that was. All of our surface is lubricated. Do not want to cut any of these at all whatsoever. Makes for a nice smooth installation. So this point we're going to take and put that guy right there, because we're going to take and compress the fluid dam to install the snap ring to the top end. Going to grab one little thing. Come with me. Just lined up just smooth. Want to go down even, just easy. There we go. A little bit of a step, just like that. Now at this point you can take just a little bit of air pressure. Do not want to overstroke the piston. Zipper on that guy. Right one. Feel any cross leaks, but that is an air bleed from these two in the back. Also to note, with this piston, it has been known for these to dislodge themselves. There's our air bleed. Those are supposed to be there. That is a metered orifice. Install onto the transmission case. And it's very nice. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 15mm bolts. Get it started. I hate this speed handle. Need to get a better one. Sometimes it works, sometimes it don't. It's probably because I got my hand so high up in the air. A little snug down. We'll come back later and do the hot retorque. Just kidding. Flip the case over. We'll assemble output shaft. Output shaft bearing. Do not forget this guy. I've had one of these transmissions that came in before. Would not hold in park. Guess what was missing? That bearing. I want to put some trans gel on that guy. Well lubricated. Stay right there. So this one with the sun gear, I'll do it this way. This will be easier for you guys. I can do this either way, but it's going to be easier for you guys to see how this can be placed all together in one shot like this. And then flip it over. And the T-handle with threaded. This still works for like 6L80s too. This is the long one. Couple of threads picks up the whole entire assembly. We're all the way down. All right, on top of this one already has a bearing that is here, located in this section. And we will take and install this Planetary first, just like that. Then take and install this one because it already has another bearing that's here, already located at the top. That in. Then we are going to grab the steels that are for the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 reverse clutch and snapping. Beveled, waved steel. And which one was down first? I have the thick one. There we are. Where was the smooth next down? Locate this one in the case. Yes, that's correct. All right, so identifying markers. There are two notches on the apply steel. One marker here and one marker there to kind of look at, and you'll have the 5 over here and then the 5 at 12 o'clock position. And we're gonna take and put that disco, it's offset. There it is. All right, so those two will line up right here in the case at the 1, 2, 4 o'clock position. You'll have the one marker after it at the 5 o'clock position, and at like 6:30 over here. Take our 3 frictions. The steels are different. That's where those 2 slots right here in the case will line up to these 2 slots and fall in. Steel and friction again. And then our backing plate, same way as the steels. The apply plate on the bottom is the one that's clocked and shifted where these 2 are over here and not right here. Wrong. That one will work. And insert the snap ring. So the snap ring in this one, no locator. So I'm going to take and put it at the 9 o'clock position. Open end. Be easy not to get any pieces of my gloves to chop off and end up in the transmission. That'll be a not good day. All right. So setting up our load pound gauge to set up and apply pressure to this, back it off, and then reapply with air pressure to find our clutch pack travel. It is very specific with these 8L90s. The calibrations in the TCM are very important. Wide fingers all the way down. I get all this cleaned off. We are almost set level. Need to adjust that. There are markings on these arms. Keep them all in the same perspective level. Part number on this tool is a DT 50902-1. Kentmore. Got all that lined up. I do not need that one in here. I'm going to take this clutch hub with ring gear out, place that into the case, just down on the backing plate. Sure I'm looking nice and level and straight. Looks pretty good to me. Just tighten down and load pound gauge. Going to pick something up. There's a tool that is actually missing here, so I'm going to use my own. So in order to measure the clutch pack travel for the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 reverse clutch, you have to have this bridge set up across the top of the case with a dial indicator. Most of the time it's attached here with a dial indicator sitting there, but I can still get away with it here with minor deflection. First of all, also with a load pound gauge that you need here with pressure applied to compress basically the wave plate at the bottom of the clutch pack. We have to start off by setting 80 pounds of pressure. Then you take the dial indicator and zero it out like I do have here. And you're gonna apply 50 PSI of air. It says not to do any more than that, otherwise it may blow out the seals in the piston, which if the clutch pack is completely loaded, I don't see it really blowing out unless you have the clutch pack clearance way too wide. So in this area I've added a piece of acrylic. It is a Sonex test plate, vacuum test plate. Drilled out some holes to apply pressure a little bit easier here in this section, because this is where it applies piston for the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 reverse clutch. So at that point everything's zeroed out. You have to take and apply air pressure, and then you're going to back off the load pound gauge back down to 80 pounds because it's going to increase the pressure. You staying with me there? That gives me 55 thousandths clearance. Clearance specification is 37 thousandths to 70, so we're within the window, and no adjustment needs to be made by changing the thickness of the snap ring. Alright, so I've pulled the clutch pack right back out of the transmission, and I'm going to add some transmission fluid into it. Not really entirely soaking these frictions because I need to put the clutch hub back in to make sure my alignment is correct and I do not miss a friction. You can do that without, but you know, it's that point to where we don't want to guess. Make sure everything is down in the right position, and I like to look at things dry before I look at anything wet, because I do know that the clutch clearance is going to increase, and it doesn't really take a lot, or not increase, but it's going to tighten up just a little bit. And it does not hurt to do this. To remember, it's also less messy to do this way. And the backing plate, snap ring back in, almost all the way down. We do have ledge, just like that. All right, the next piece that needs to go in line is the clutch hub for the 1, 2, 7, 8 reverse, which is our second brake clutch in this transmission. So in the back are 2 brake clutches. These are used basically as a holding item. Instead of having to use a sprag or a one-way clutch, they use 2 brake clutches to lube the bushing. Install that guy right there. Also, the 1, 2, 7, 8 reverse clutch itself comes preset from the factory. There is no real specification to adjust this clutch. It is preset, so you don't have to worry about changing anything. You grab one thing. There it is. So the way that this applies is basically faced down. Piston assembly is a center support section that will go here, and it pushes down. And when I get to the point to talk about the return spring, you go there. I'm going to get rid of this just to make sure that the return spring is actually faced in the correct position. If you flip it around, it'll stay applied. It'll make a hellacious noise when you do a service fast learn. You'll find out the hard way really quick. 2 tab here, 1 tab here, jiggle jiggle. And our backing plate, or apply plate. This one, I believe, moves just like the, yeah, it does. Alignment 2 tab over here, 2 tabs here, 1 tab there, and 1 tab there. And then our wave spring. All right, this is where it gets a little interesting. Need to make sure that how this applies. I'm trying to remember myself. Fingers up, and this has to be the bevel wave return spring with the bevel side up. so it pushes the piston back. If you push it and turn it around this way, it'll take and force the clutch completely compressed all the time. So do not make that mistake. And an updated billet style center support piston for the 1278 clutch. Looks like our service advisor had some car trouble. Is that David's? Is that David's? Is that yours?
Yeah, my starter died.
Yeah, that is his daily. Install the piston.
Yeah, I thought it was my battery. It was sluggish to start last night, so I grabbed the jump box. Thinking his battery was dead. I picked up Raiden, started up fine. I was like, told him, we'll go to this, shop and, grab some games to play or whatever, and we'll go out, and there she lied.
It always happens when you least expect it.
Yeah.
All right, so there's an alignment tab here at the top, and also looked at where air pressure applies in here from the center support seal in this section to install. So this is the air bleed. This is air or hydraulic supply. And the alignment tab is right here in the case, down this way. Make sure we don't get that guy sideways in there. It feels right on top of the return spring. So the next part is the snap ring, and there's going to be in service information a tool to go down here, lock and press, which would be this or the other fixture tool that I do have, but we don't necessarily need to use that. And I'll show you a little old school trick. Put that down below the step. I'm going to use a flat blade screwdriver and a hammer. We come down 45-degree angle, and we're going to just tap, barely tap it. It doesn't take that much, and we didn't hurt anything. Make sure that thing is seated all the way around. It does look very, very nice, just like that. And at this point, we can flip it up just like so. Sure I don't have a little bit of residual that's dropping to the floor. And passage sleeve. Going to test that. Make sure we do have motion and that is free, that we do not have anything upside down. All right, we'll hold off for you for later. Let's see. All right, next is going to be this guy. Planetary and reaction shell, or reaction planetary shell assembly. And with that, did I put them over here? I do believe, yes I did. Put you there for later. Which one goes which way? Flat on the bottom, grooved section on top, just like that. Flat here, grooved indentation here. And let me see one little thing. That's exactly the way it goes. Install it into the case. And the next thing we have right here is a thrust washer, and we're going to have a bearing. Make sure which one's which that I do have. One with a step. These are both the same. 3 that are the same. Correct. One with a shim, another bearing with a shim. So this thrust piece splines into the sun gear. I'm going to take a little bit of transgel to hold this in place, because how I'm going to do the next section, once we build the this clutch housing assembly, we're going to flip the case with the valve body side up and install it into the unit. Now some other people kind of do this backwards. They'll take and put all the planetary systems in it and then take and put the drum in there. I've tried to do that before, not really too comfortable with it. I can basically just flip this sideways and load it in, and I can get it usually on the first shot. But in this section with this clutch housing with the main shaft that's in the middle of the transmission, there are some design changes as far as like 2017 and up and later with the 2, 3, 4, 6, 8 piston, and some design changes as far as the wave plate with the 4, 5, 6 reverse. But with this being a 2015 model, we're going to keep some of the stuff the same because of the calibration data that's in the TCM, even though we're getting some tuning done on it. Some information would be this O-ring, this D-ring right here on this balance piston is going to be there's 2 different designs on it, and something that I did find with the old drum and the old piston, so this is new and this is new, that I want to show you that was going on with the 2, 3, 4, 6, 8 clutch. One little section that's here in the drum, it has a little mark, and also this ID point right here, see it's about completely worn out. So this piston was actually applying sideways. causing a delay. It's your 1-2 delay potentially that you see. So new piston, new drum. Let's put it together. We've got all new D-rings. This piston came loaded with a D-ring on it, and the drum came loaded with D-rings and O-rings. So there's a D-ring here. There's another, let me see, make sure that is a O-ring here, second section down, and then there are 2 O-rings down below. And do be careful when you're replacing the O-rings, there's a lip here at the top, and that is for this snap ring. We're going to install the piston with the ID marks here and here, 180 degrees apart from each other. We're going to install that first. Slightly easy, slightly not. I may have to compress it down when I do put the balance piston in. I may see if I want to do that or not. Let me think. Nope, we're not going to use that. Come on, work with me. Don't want to cock it sideways, and we do not want to cut any rings at the same time. I'm just going to take and compress it slowly. The bevel side up, this is the return spring for the piston, and then our balance. This way we can get that lined up and easier to push that down, just like that. Go ahead and install the snap ring. So we have that ready. Lied to me just a hair. Right now I just want to seat it. Yeah, I'm gonna have to rechange those arms. Come on, find the hole. To pull you back up one more step. Here we go. Just a little bit of slight pressure at the right time and the right place. That's all it needed. Take and compress. There we go. What I'm going to do, walk it around, and there we have it. All right, in this section we do have a balance piston, and that will go with the flat side as this down. It's like a stepped balance in between another apply section. So apply fluid comes through here to apply the piston up, and then there's the balance side on this one that goes to the top side here. And this is for balance oil to also release and aid the spring to release the piston and return it. Come on. I'm just going to install this and aid to do the same thing. Make sure we put that right in there the correct way. Spring face down. Refix this. Install the snap ring. Readjust that one. Alright, so my camera battery died and I got everything put together, and let's look at some air test. Most of this is Kentmore OEM tools. Just slightly. We do not want to over travel the piston, even though these are D-ring sets. I've never really blown out a D-ring or anything like this. But before we get into verifying our clutch clearance, talking a little bit about the clutch dynamics. I've got a set of 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 reverse frictions that I've held on to for quite some time, and these are an older style. I'm not really sure if they were thinking about changing to do something with an apply range. So how the clutch applies and the calibrated data that's in the TCM software, I believe they were trying to change some things up in the unit first before some of the software was updated, because the software in the ECM and the TCM kind of have to match and jive together the way that these do apply, because there are 3 clutches on at all times except park and neutral. And park and neutral is the only 2 brake clutches that are applied as a holding fixture on the inside of the unit, and it gets ready for the next oncoming clutch that will be applied in reverse. Would be the 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 reverse clutch, and in drive first gear would be the 1, 3, 5, 6, 7 clutch. So that's a little bit of tech information. If you ever see this style, I would not recommend using it. Use this style. These are still both OEM, and I believe, looking at some of it, maybe either Alto or Borg Warner. I do believe this is Borg Warner. So what we're going to start first is putting 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 reverse clutch in with the wave spring, and there are identifying markers in between the step for the actual piston for the 2, 3, 4, 6, 8 or 2, 3, 6, 8 clutch. To get it down in there, make sure this drum's not warped either. I've had one that actually was. It's been a long time since I've seen that. So since we're setting everything up at this point, I'm going to also add fluid in, and so I don't have to take it back apart. Really don't like doing that with that one, but just to give you an idea of what you may see as far as this and this, because the only thing that I'll have to take back off is the 2, 3, 6, 8 clutch in order to put the hub down in for the 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 reverse clutch. There's a lot of information, a lot to talk about. Well, these frictions will absorb. By the time I get everything set, we should be ready. Line that up. And the snap ring has an ID in the drum, located right here, one edge of the snap ring, to make sure it is seated in the right location and all the way down. So I'm going to take this, has to go to the very top. I need to walk this down because it is too high. I'm about a third of the way. Find center, looks fairly good there. Level across. Need to take and clean that mess. Drop my rags. I'm going to start with 5, 6, 7, 8 reverse, and I already have it regulated at 50 psi. To move this over here. I'll get this set up and I'll be right back. Alright, so for the 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 reverse clutch pack travel, the specification is 49 thousandths. Let me double check that. Yeah, 49 thousandths to 75 thousandths. So the first thing we're going to start off is make sure that the regulated air supply is 50 psi. We're going to take a load pound gauge and put 75 pounds of pressure on it. Take the dial indicator and zero it. Then we're going to, back off 1 revolution off the load pound gauge and add air pressure. And that gives us our clearance. We're right at 50, what is that, 61 thousandths. And there you have it. That sets everything up. We are within a 10 thousandths range to the bottom end, so I'm fine with that. I'm going to go ahead and install the clutch hub with ring gear for the 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 reverse and install the bearing that goes underneath with the outside caged out, down, and towards the face of the drum. Walk it in. You'll see some of those frictions are flying around, then lined up. What I like to do is look right here and see where the shaft is actually protruding past where the bushing is, just maybe 50 thousandths, I'm gonna say. There, we're all the way down. So I'm probably gonna have enough to where the step at the top of the backing plate to go ahead and set that clutch back travel measurement and look at that and see where we are with that, even though I already know exactly what it is using these frictions. Going to install the step plate for ply ring. Probably should have done that first. We can get her in there. Line up 2 wide fingers that are 180 degrees from each other.
Happy New Year, Brandon.
You too as well. We're leaking. And the backing plate. And this one has a notch ID right there for the snap ring. I'll get this set up and I'll be right back. So as I'm going over the clutch backing plate clutch pack travel specification and looking at everything for the 2, 3, 4, 6, 8 clutch, it's not the measurement that I had before, and I'm 10 thousandths off. There is one thing that I did note when checking the other clutch pack, that I did not have to reintroduce 60 pounds or 75 pounds of force back to it, and I had to relieve pressure off of this one. And when doing so, I'm at the highest end, and I'm curious, the specification is actually 49, wrong clutch, 61 to 87. We're at 75. That is interesting. What did I write down for that guy? What was the other one? 75. So that's 14 thousandths from the bottom end. 87 to the top end. That's 12. 15 from the bottom end, 12 from the top. Still middle of the road. What do I want to do with that guy? Find out how far we can take that one. I still feel like, because of reverse, oncoming and reverse, I'm curious if others have gotten that too tight and changed it, and it causes the transmission to actually buckle when you've tried to put it in reverse. It'll sit there and just shake the drive shaft. That's making me curious about why I've seen some other guys do that and have that issue. I wonder, because they're like, I'll take it back apart and everything looks fine. So if, hang on, that is the second gear. Reverse, I have 61, so that's still fine. That's not the problem that I'm looking at there. All right, I like to think while I'm working. I want to look at something for maybe another condition, if I can make a change or not. Out of the way. Should I change it or should I not? That is the question. 98 thousandths thick. That is the yellow snap ring. So yellow snap ring, and the next one down, no color, is going to give me 10 thousandths off. So I pull it down, it's going to be to the bottom end. I mean, real close to the bottom end. Don't want to make it too tight. I think I'm going to leave it. I think it'll be fine. So in this one, how you set everything up with that is basically the same as the others, and you're going to apply 60 pounds of force first, zero out the dial indicator, then add 50 psi, and then back down to 60 pounds on the load gauge, and that gives you your clearance. And reinstall the snap ring. I'm going to take the tool, set you to the side, because we're going to use that for that later. Take our Planetary with bearing made into it, face down, just like that, to take and lube up our bushing. Install this clutch hub with sun gear and ring gear. What I'm about to do next, some people do it this way, some people have found to do it a different way. So with the transmission case and the valve body side faced up, you can take the assembly and install it, but you still got to be real careful. Some of that stuff can shift. Other people do it a different way. I've continuously done it this way and have been very, very successful. I'm going to hold the sun shell because you got to get the planet lined up. And it's not all the way down, I can tell, because if one thing shifts and falls, I have to get it into the sun gear in the rear. There. I do believe we are down. Let me look at one thing so I can show you exactly how you can tell with a measurement depth, like almost instantly. Let me grab that and I'll be right back. There's a couple of ways to do this, but the way I'm going to show you is using an H gauge. If you want to use a straight edge to go across the top of the case right here where these two bolts are, and the depth measurement that we're going to go to is to the innermost ring of the drum. The depth is supposed to be right at 2 inch and 472 thousandths. So I've already done a measurement just to make sure I'm exactly where I'm at before I have to take this thing back apart, and I've got it set right where it needs to be. Now you're going to see a minor deflection because of how I do this, and I'm going to set it right here. Dial calipers, my calipers, however you want to say it, go to the bottom measurement, to the bottom. It says 2 inches 476, but I do have some marred up sections on the table that are going to throw that number off slightly. So let me see if I can get something a little bit more smooth area. 2 inches 472 thousandths. So there's the depth that you need in order to make sure that that is all the way seated. Reseal the input shaft. Now the last couple of days I've been trying to hunt through the dealership to find the actual tools to resize and reseal this unit, so we're going to do some old school stuff with this one. I have the 8L45 tools, but I do not have the 8L90 for some odd reason, but yet we have that. Hot water, extremely boiling hot water. You take the Teflon seals and set them in there 5 to 10 minutes. They've been in there for approximately 5 at the moment. And what we're going to do, what I do, I know some people will take and wrap them up really tight, or take and put hose clamps on it to do that and resize them down. A little trick that I even do once I've got them on is I can just take and walk them around just for a minute on each one of them, and I'm going to take and put them into holes. As you see, there is a taper. Just let them sit for about 5 minutes. Do it that way, that side, and this way, that side. What we can come up with is a little hot. It's not too hot. Side first, stretch them out just a little bit. Sit right there. More pliable in order to install. Edge that guy just a little bit more. 6L80 to the rescue, maybe 4L60 to the rescue, but we're gonna go step it up a little bit at a time to spread their wings. It's pretty close. Do the same to these, a little bit more. We don't do enough 8L90s yet to purchase the sizing tools that I usually get from Victor Smith. I do more of the 10 speeds than I do 8 speeds. Sizer tool for the 6L80, 6L90. Squeeze, help to have the right tools. Smooth you back out. Off now. Down a little bit more. Cranking down just a little bit more. Around. 2 and 3. Just for a minute. I'm going to take these off because I have a feeling I'm going to have to go a little bit further with those. Then I'm going to let everything set and we'll get this put together and go over that. Reuse the parts of the transmission as the tool. I suggest you get the seal sizers. That went into the groove to start. We can move you down to the next level. Down one more. Wobble, wobble just a little bit. Make sure everything's even because there is a taper. A couple of minutes that way. Just going to take and we'll flip that upside down. We're just going to put it into the case. Now the 8L90 units have 2 clutch pack travel specifications for the 1, 3, 5, 6, 7 clutch. And if it is built with 4 plates, the specification is 72 thousandths to 91 thousandths. If it is built with 5 plates, it is 59 thousandths to 83 thousandths. So in this unit, we have 4 clutch plates that are in this clutch pack. I'm going to take and put this together. We have this here and 1 D-ring that is here on the inside of the drum. This is for the balance side. This is fluid pressure to aid the return spring, or the return of the piston. And this section is for fluid apply. Piston itself, it also has the other side of balance oil that is to aid the piston to come off. So, no, let me say that again. This is to seal the top side of the piston, this D-ring for fluid apply. Is that right? Let me look in the hole. So, fluid pressure applies on this side of the piston, not towards the outside to apply. Ring on the piston. Make sure we don't cut any seals in the process. Stuff is really, really slick. Take and install the piston and then the return spring. Work really good. There, let's compress, put the snap ring on. Level and even when you do go down. And so we got to make sure it is flat in alignment a little bit. Let's make sure that I didn't make an error and that the fingers are face down. So it does matter which way you do put the return spring in, fingers faced down. Refresh and rethink where we're at in the process. We're going to do this without the input shaft installed. Steel, friction steel, friction steel, friction steel, friction backing plate. I do believe has to be in alignment. It is only for the snap ring. There's an alignment mark that is here on the top of the backing plate to ID the snap ring. And most of this is basically from a manufacturing standpoint as to why those are there, for their processes only. On the inner section of the backing plate, nowhere on the snap ring. Load pound gauge. Now the pressure that needs to be applied is 30 pounds to the load gauge. Set the dial indicator, zero it out, then you back it off 1 full turn, then you add regulated 50 psi of shop air, and at the same time turn the adjustment screw back to 30 pounds. and then you measure your clearance. Very hard to see. Zero out the dial indicator, 50 psi shot pressure, and we are going to back off the adjustment screw. Right there, and we have 81 to 83 thousandths clearance. Specification is 72 to 91, so we are within the range. Now on the input shaft, on the bottom section, there is an O-ring that goes here. When you get the overhaul kit, make sure you check and make sure it matches the one that came out. Sometimes it's going to be black, sometimes it'll be blue. And install the snap ring. On the top side of the drum here, we have a shim and a bearing. I moved them over here. Shim goes in first, and then the bearing. Take the drum and install it into the case. Now here at this point is something I kind of like to do with the speed sensors. To take and put it into the case. The speed sensor lines up in the middle of the tone ring. It's all the way down. And then on top of the drum we have a shim and another bearing, with the black side of the bearing faced up. Now on the front stator assembly, we have two sealing rings that need to be installed. This is a new assembly. I've already installed the converter Teflon seal on the back side, and I'll show you exactly what I did with that. One split ring seal here, or split seal here, and one split seal here, and just make sure you put them just like piston rings on a engine. I like to put them across from each other. And install it into the transmission. The deck of the case is when it's all the way down. Section right here, this bolt goes in first to align the stator from left and right side. So the seal that I use, sizer that I use to install that, is actually for 4L60. For the input clutch seals on the back of that stator to start the sizing process, and it brings it down pretty good. And after that, I'll take the stator support assembly and actually put it on top of the converter. The converter has a chamfered edge. Take and place it on top, let it sit and seal for approximately 5 to 10 minutes, and it should be okay. Will be okay. Make sure I say that right. So next thing we have is two thrust washers, and these are a bit important. Let me look at on which one goes where, because of the flanged outside piece. These are raised to the outside. That's the one that goes on the front cover assembly, and the one that's rounded all the way around goes in to the stator assembly. And the next piece we're going to do is looking at Endplay. I'll show you how to do that. with the dial indicator zeroed out. I use a bridge type with a setup magnetic base, a dial indicator to the top of the input shaft. And I'll take and put a so slightly and just move up. Endplay is 20 thousandths. So we're going to take a look at the specification. Specification is 8 thousandths to 31 thousandths of an inch. So we're within range. Support assembly bolts are hand tight right now. We're going to take and torque those to 26 foot-pounds. We have a new stator gasket. That here with the alignment pin that is here in the case. All that there needs to be. Keep that in alignment. Install a new chain drive package for the pump. On high mileage units, this chain is known to stretch. So this is the side that goes on first and has to go in before we put the front cover on. Now I'm going to take and put some trans gel on the front cover. Is completely bare. I've got a new seal on that at the moment. We're going to install the converter seal last. I do have a driver to install that. And before we do that, install our shim. And we'll put the dash to the side and lock it down in place. Gel to the case, gel to the O-ring, CPT fluid. Make it nice and smooth installation. Then install the front cover. The alignment pin in the stator support is located, make sure that is correct. Yep, it's correct right here in the cover. I'm almost out. Let's see if we make it. Just a little bit. One bolt for you there. Now the use of anaerobic sealer is to seal two metal mating surfaces. And that's exactly what we're going to do. And last one. I'm taking snug these down by hand. Across from each other, just slightly, until we pull the cover all the way down. The torque specification on the 10mm bolts for the front cover are 84 inch-pounds. Now the next thing that we're going to do is install the converter seal. All the way down. And last but not least, our converter lockup O-ring. Do not forget that, otherwise when you put it in the vehicle, it will not have lockup. So, in our next segment, we're going to go over the valve body and a lot of information for that. So, make sure you subscribe to the page and tap that bell notification, and we'll see you next time.